Hey friends, welcome back. And this episode, I'm going to talk about my top 5 running podcasts. When I say top 5 running podcasts, I'm talking about what I personally love to run to and listen to whilst I'm running. Let's get into it. First one is Modern Wisdom by Chris Williamson. Fantastic podcast. Chris was originally from Newcastle. He went to Newcastle Uni. I went to Newcastle Uni too. Love that. And he's been on the rise massively the last year or so. But to be fair to him, he started, I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago. He was on one of the first Love Islands back in the day. I think it was the original one. You would never know. Sound bloke, doing really well. And I suppose he's looking at life lessons from all these interesting people and thinkers. So he's like a sort of cross between Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, and a bit like Stephen Bartlett, a bit more, I don't know, I think he's just brilliant at challenging guests. He doesn't just sit there and let them listen. He sort of challenges them, tries to get a deep understanding. Guests range from all sorts of people like Jordan Peterson, Alex Hormozy, Ray Dalio. It's phenomenal. And they're quite long episodes normally, so you can sit there. I quite like a long episode, especially if I'm running, maybe like between like 1.5 to 3 hours, which is quite nice because you can get into it and you don't have to change it up and you can just learn about a subject, or it could be anything. It's fantastic. I really recommend him. I'll drop a link in the description so you can check him out. My second go-to podcast is Gary Vaynerchuk. So Gary's like the OG of social media. You'd call a purebred entrepreneur. He started in his dad's liquor store in America. I think he was about 14 years old. This was like pre-internet, and then just as the internet was starting, when it was back in the day when you had to pull the cable out the wall, plug the thing in, and you used to go, well, I can't even do the noise now. I used to dial up. I remember when I was a kid and we had it. He started it was a bit like a YouTube channel, but it was pre-YouTube. And it essentially was called Wine Library TV, and no one watched it. And he did I think he did over 1,000 episodes. But because of the volume, and back then, over time, eventually, he did well, and he took his dad's business from like a 3 to a 60 million pound business. Now he's most famous for building a company called VaynerMedia. It's like a Madison Avenue media agency. They've got about 1,500 employees, do about 300 million plus in revenue. He started that from nothing. A really cool guy. Does things like Tea with Gary Vee, famous author for things like Crushing It. Fantastic. And the reason I like his podcasts is because they are sometimes an hour long, or there'd be 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and it's normally stuff about social media. Gary was an early investor in stuff like Uber, Facebook, Vimeo, Snapchat, to name a few. Really successful entrepreneur, but he's massive in social media, so stuff like TikTok, everything. So back in the day, he gives great strategies and stuff on how to get into a platform or how to get started, and just general stuff about new stuff that's coming up. Really cool guy. Recommend. I don't listen to all his stuff, but some of this you often get a gem, so I just occasionally flick in, pick something I really like the title of, boom, and off we go. The third podcast I listen to is called The British Entrepreneur, and it's a guy called John Joseph Bourget, and he is a successful entrepreneur who owns a company called Modball Rally. It's like a rolling party of supercars that cruise across around Europe. His philosophy was, back in the day, working in London, doing some marketing, thought this is a bit shit. How can I earn a year's salary in one day? That's how he started. Love that mindset, and that sort of thing I'm thinking about now. Just a cool guy. I suppose his focus is, he's not that old, he'd be like 40, but his focus is stuff like cryptocurrency. He's made the famous $1 billion bet on Bitcoin and Ethereum, so 500,000 in Bitcoin, 500,000 in Ethereum. He did that like 2 years ago, and fair play to him, he's doing well out of it now. But like, I'm quite into crypto, so like I like listening to his guests, because often they are people who are invested or have some sort of business and background, so it's fantastic. He often has cool guests. One of the other reasons I really like him is because his podcasts are normally about an hour to an hour and a half in length. Some of the early ones are brilliant, just has cool, and there's no bullshit. It's quite fun. He films them in short. I really like his idols like Richard Branson, and his sort of goal was, I just want to have fun every day. So back in the day when he was at uni, he's just fuck off to Hawaii and go surfing every summer. And I thought that's cool. And basically he was like, how can I just have fun every day doing a business? So what can I do to just do what I want to do every day? And then looked at like, how much do I need to earn? This was back in the day, and realized it wasn't that much money because all he wanted to do was surf. So I just love that mindset, doing what you want, trying to make it happen. Check him out. Great guy. Love his content. The fourth podcast is called the Lex Friedman Podcast. Lex is an AI researcher at MIT, focuses on science, technology, philosophy, the nature of intelligence, and has some fantastic guests. They're normally quite long interviews, so a podcast would generally be about 3 hours, could go to 4.5, if not longer. But they're really in-depth subjects. He's a really big fan of history, robotics, engineering, computer science, and I'm not an expert in that, but I just love learning about it and the history and stuff. And he's really wants to interview Vladimir Putin. I know that's recently happened, but it would be a very different type of podcast, and I think that'd be fantastic. I think he was originally from Ukraine or Russia back in the day. I forget his actual background, but moved to America when he was a child, etc. Great content, real detailed stuff. Normally stuff to do with what's happening in the world. So it could be like Palestine, Gaza, money. It could be about the economy. It could be about like civilizations, love, everything. It's just so in depth, and he has experts in all the time. It's just really, really interesting. Such a great guy. I mean, I'd love to be like him. He's fantastic. Fifth podcast is Game by Alex Hormozy, famous investor, entrepreneur, author of books like $100 Million Offers or $100 Million Leads, both two great books. Alex Hormozy has a famous tagline called how to get more customers, how to make more per customer, and how to keep them longer, and the many failures and lessons that he learns along the way. Alex has built this company called acquisition.com. It's like a portfolio of companies, and they invest in, but you've got to be turning over a minimum of 2 million, normally multiple millions, and making net of 1 million. And the idea is that he wants to make business education free for all, and I think that's incredible, and it's just the best content. There's no bullshit. It's so simple, the way he talks about stuff and the way he talks about selling, getting more customers, marketing. An example, I was listening to a podcast back along, a friend of his was like, Alex, I've been putting out content, I'm not getting as much reach as I'd like. This guy was already absolutely minted, and Alex was like, well, how many posts and stuff, how many individual pieces of content are you putting out a week? And he was like, 40 or something like that. And Alex goes, try 300 as the minimum. Chap was like, thank you for resetting my minimum standard. Love the content. It's just a bit of me. So I listen to all these podcasts, generally speaking, on 2 apps, YouTube and Castbox. I have YouTube, which allows me to actually watch the video format because I love, video format stuff. But it also allows me to press the lock screen, put it in my pocket, go for a run, so I can press download. I don't have to watch the thing and play it like that. If it's not on an app called Castbox, which is free because I didn't have Spotify, and that has loads of podcasts on it. So I use Castbox or YouTube. I get best of both worlds because I really like to, if I'm going to the train to London, I listen to the podcast as I just love that sort of format. That's my 5 go-to running podcasts. There's loads of others I listen to, but these are my 5 gems, if you like. People I really admire and I'd love to meet one day, doing really cool stuff that I would love to be doing. So I'm like, yes, and I've learned a lot from them. So I don't know if any of you listen to any podcasts or what have you, but drop a comment in telling me what podcast you listen to. I'd be genuinely interested in.